Welcome to Literacy Talks, the podcast for literacy leaders and champions everywhere, brought to you by Reading Horizons. Literacy Talks is the place to discover new ideas, trends, insights, and practical strategies for helping all learners reach reading proficiency. Our hosts are Stacy Hurst, a professor at Southern Utah University and Chief Academic Advisor for Reading Horizons; Donnell Pons, a recognized expert and advocate in literacy, dyslexia, and special education; and Lindsay Kemeny, an elementary classroom teacher, author, and speaker. Now, let's talk literacy.
Welcome to our episode of Literacy Talks. I'm Lindsay Kemeny, and I'm here with Donnell Pons and Stacy Hurst, and we are thrilled to have a special guest today, Dr. Maria Murray. And Maria, let's jump right into introducing yourself. If you can just tell our listeners a little bit about your background and how you came to what we call the science of reading.
Oh, that's a wonderful question. Thank you for having me. I came to the science of reading in a different way than many of us who are in this science of reading advocacy last decade or so. You hear most people say, I didn't know about it, and I found out when I heard this or Emily Hanford's podcast. Right. I came at it pretty directly by calling Syracuse University, which is where I live in Syracuse, when it was time for me to get my master's degree, and asked them if they had something in learning disabilities, because I knew I was a secondary social studies degree, and I saw that students couldn't read the homework. So I wanted to know what that was about. That seemed like a mystery. And I landed directly in on the shoulders of Dr. Benita Blackman, who was mentored and taught by the likes of Jean Chall and Don Shankweiler. So when you hear of this thing called phonological awareness or phoneme awareness, if you look up her name in the National Reading Panel, that's what she is about. And also, she was a reading scientist investigating how to remediate reading difficulty. So we're already in 2026, and 21 years ago, there already had been 20 years, 2005 to do the math, or no, 1985 to 2005, I have to do the math, of federally funded NICH and ICHD grants on reading, thanks to Read Lion. And so all of these R1 institutions across our country were busy, neuroscience and cog science, and we were in this kind of cool cutting edge time where we were learning the things. And so I wanted to be a reading scientist, and I got to work with the statisticians at Florida Center and go to DC for conferences. And we worked with the Yale Dyslexia Center, the book Overcoming Dyslexia, the kids in that book from the Shawitzes. Those are our kids that we taught at Syracuse University. So what an alive time to experience. It was wild. Yeah, that's how I did it.
How amazing just to learn. I just think it'd be so amazing right from the beginning you had this information, right? Diving into the Reading League. So we want you to take us to the beginning. Is there a moment or what problem made you realize, hey, we need a Reading League? And let us know how it started.
How about this? These words were the problem. That's not our job. So during all of this exciting time that I just mentioned were these comments of that's not our job. So when we finished a research study in a school here in Syracuse, or when we then upscaled it to train the teachers to do what we had done, and boy, were they good. Oh my gosh, to put that information in a teacher's hands and have them do that small group and close the gaps. Oh my gosh, I learned so much from them. To then leave the study, pack up your bags and leave and drive away and realize, who's gonna, but they're not gonna, but they're already being told to put all our stuff away. That's not our job. And then another one, Right after one of our studies, Congress sent a videographer to Syracuse to kind of get a 10-minute story together of what had been done with all the money. And so he spent all summer in Syracuse, and I would drive him to our different families. We worked with second and third grade non-readers, and they were the ones in the fMRI study that is in overcoming dyslexia. And so we knew what life was like before the children could read, the bullying, the teachers telling them just try harder, the parents at the end of a long day when you think you're home safe, but you're not, because why didn't you bring your homework home? And your teacher says you're not trying, and the running away. So that was a big moment for me, one of the pivotal moments, because who's going to tell the parents there's something better out there? Well, that's not our job. Oh, so it was just constant. Where's the department, the phone number, the group that's doing this, to be a knowledge broker between the producers of the knowledge and the users for whom they are bothering doing it for. So, and I have one more little anecdote that struck me as mind-blowing, and that was going to the Society for Scientific Studies of Reading conference. And that year it was in Hong Kong. And I went there to report on almost a 12-year follow-up study we did of those two second and third graders. So now they were adults. And we found them, spread all across the country. They left Syracuse, and we could see a pretty dramatic difference between those that we had taught to read and those who were in a comparison group and got business as usual in their schools. So my husband went with me because it's Hong Kong. That's going to be a great place to stay over a bit. And he found me, he made me sit at the carousel at the airport. I'll get the luggage. And he came back, not just with the luggage, but with someone else, and said, I found someone that's going to join us on the taxi ride to the conference. Like, how did you know she was from Belgium, I believe. And he said, well, you all look exhausted, exhausted with a ponytail, like usually, because we're just working. He was right. He didn't mean as insulting, but enough to say, hey, are you here for the conference? Anyway, we're in the back seat of the taxi, and she and I are up with that. And she asked why I'm there, and I mentioned the Blackman. She goes, Blackman 2004? So how did she know? That really hurt my soul. Because so I went back. I'm like, who is writing articles for teachers? Why are they just going into Journal of Ed Psych and all these other journals? For the scientists, what is the point? That's not our job. So you get the idea.
Yeah, well, okay. You said something that I love. Like, I haven't heard the term knowledge broker.
Oh, that's
I
right.
love that. Yeah, and that's a really perfect description, I think, of the Reading League.
It is.
I love so did you like go and have dinner with a group of people to just chat? Like, how are we going to do this? Let's start an organization to help.
Well, we have to take a little journey through so knowing all this not my job stuff was actually true, and there was not anyone. I didn't then say, well, then I'll do it. It wasn't that quick of a leap.
Yeah.
It was more of I got to quit. I taught 10 more years in the SUNY system, 8 until I founded the Reading League. But same thing, I was teaching my students like crazy. I didn't use textbooks. I used the real authentic literature, and I taught everything I could get into them. But within a year or 2 or 3, I'd hear back saying, hey, can you send me some activities? Like, because they were working with 4th graders that missed K1, 2, 3 a year,
Yeah.
I said to my own colleagues, what are we going to do? That's not our job. They have to learn in the school. I'm like, well, the school says it's not their job. So anyway, I'm sorry. Yeah. It was a crazy time for my soul. A lot of crying. I tutored kids for 8 years, helping one at a time. Yeah. When the mom could afford to write me a check, that didn't seem right. Anywho, so my husband said to me one day, and I always say he's to blame for the Reading League, or he gets the credit. He said, why don't we go raise alpacas? Because his soul was hurting from his job. He hated his work too. And I could not live in a world where we were hurting kids. Now, I don't think us owning any kind of farm or working with animals was something I should have said okay to. But it seemed like such a, yes, crazy idea. I just love to do crazy things in life. So we that day met a couple. We called up and they invited us out. And they're still Finger Lakes alpaca, although they're now in Ohio. Go see them. And we spent 2 or 3 years with them. And I bring my proof to you.
That's the alpaca. Okay.
I have the whole, I can look up how to, deal with joint and leg problems. And you're going to laugh, deal with the hooves. And I learned to show them at the New York State Fair. And it was just the most beautiful escapism.
That's great.
To shut it off. Okay. Then I went so far as to call a realtor. And my husband and I flew to Louisville, Kentucky to buy a farm. And I did interview at another university in Kentucky because I would need insurance. Yes, I would need alpacas. Were just going to put us right into no money land. Like that was never going to make us any money. But they said I was too into the science of reading to hire me.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's a great one. I have so many stories.
Wow.
We should do a different podcast someday. Like when I'm more brave, we can really go.
Yeah.
But so we took one or two looks at these farms and said, okay, finally the midlife crisis, we got to get real, go back to work.
Oh, okay.
And that day when I went home and was sorting through the mail, that day I had a conversation with someone and I realized I wasn't alone and that I knew at least 100 people that I could rattle off like that who got it. So my sense of feeling isolated was false. And it was our job. So I called them all and said, can we start this Central New York little like merry troop of travelers? And Lindsay, you can talk about this. Maybe you could do a 3-hour segment in March and I'll do this because of the science of reading. I know that much and you know that much and so we could together yeah. And there is really such a thing as the term knowledge broker. It's it can be a person or an organization that has to get that stuff to the user.
Yeah.
But I want to just point out how weird that in education, the field, which is supposed to not recognize, but maybe recognize and respect knowledge.
Yeah.
This whole field of knowledge was rejected. So yeah, for teachers anyway.
Well, we are definitely grateful that you didn't continue with your dream of the alpaca farm. I just gotta say it right.
Oh, don't worry. I just get
Look at that. She held up a little bit.
6 years old. I have
maybe later in life, Maria.
No, that's
Okay. Did you face any early kind of skepticism, resistance as you started this league? Anything you want to share?
I don't think what we did made so the founders of the Reading League were educators in New York State, public, private schools, universities. And for some of us, what we were saying basically is that teachers are not being prepared and have not been empowered with this knowledge. Mm-hmm. That didn't make us too many friends from some people, of course, right?
Right.
So, but when we first came out, we came out swinging. We were like, rah, rah, now as a CEO of a bit, I have to temper my temper, but I'm not. I was angry because I felt, but I didn't. It took me even a year or two into it to say, okay, if we're going to say you don't know, when you know better, you do better. You don't know what you don't know, then I have to be giving people a lot more grace. No one did this with intention, maybe willful embarrassment. I don't want this, in my lap, but yeah. So I had a lot of growing up to do too, but thankfully I had a lot of people telling me this is going to take time and this is how systems change, and change management, communication, science, leadership science. Like, I never knew any of these things existed. So I now, in the last 10 years, have had to kind of put my science of reading hat a little to the side and now become an entrepreneur advocate, run a nonprofit, which I had no, I thought nonprofits were for churches, blood banks, food banks. I had no idea. One little town near here has over 2,000 nonprofits. I had no idea.
Wow.
Doing all this work. So, yeah.
So what was the original mission of the Reading League, and has it changed across the year, or is it the same?
It's never changed so far, but you're you're onto something. It is still that we want to advance the awareness, understanding, and use. It was just, I thought of that I think within 2 days I had the mission statement. The internet told me we needed a mission statement. That seemed a good one. It just rolled off. The website, I had it made. I had a logo made online with $100 Visa swipe, so it's just always, I followed what you needed to do so that we could quickly get into the schools and do the work. But 10 years has gone by, and the awareness piece of that statement is not so much what it was before. Because when we started, nobody even heard the term 10 years ago. Or knew what it meant for sure. I think we've come a long way in that regard. So maybe down the road, we won't need the word awareness, but we sure are in an implementation, right, era.
Yeah. Yeah. And understanding and use of the science of reading, right? I just think that there's so many misconceptions. And whereas before you were building more awareness, now you're like, we're trying to protect the term, and there's so many misconceptions about what the science of reading is. So
they're like the dust bunnies in my house. They're everywhere.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So can you share then a little snapshot of the Reading League today? So about how many members do you have? How many states are represented?
The numbers scare me, friends. We were able to go from just a group on living room floors with pizzas and toddlers and puppies to kitchen tables and cafeterias and auditoriums to national in very short amount of time. We had 5 events a year, every other month, and then some holiday time. And within a little over 2 years, over 4,200 educators from central New York and states around us were driving to our events. Not that they could fit, we could only fit 200 or 300, so they were all free. We got social media attention. So this was 2016 to 2018. And in 2019, we were being asked to talk elsewhere. Patton met Pam Kastner, said, "You need chapters." I'm like, "Who are you and what are you talking about?" I've got a full-time job. I cannot go of what chapters. Isn't that something Alzheimer's Association has? Like this, it doesn't make sense.
Wow.
Or International Literacy Association has chapters. Well, no. So time marches on, and the Reading League seems to have some magic that if someone says something, that door opens and we start going in, and someone's there to tell us how. So we now have 46 chapters.
Amazing.
And the DC, District of Columbia. I'm sorry, 45 in District of Columbia. So that's 46 chapters. Mm-hmm. And the 4 remaining states are coming on by December. So we should be that was our goal, to hit 50 for our 10th anniversary.
Oh,
so we will be doing that, I think. They all have paperwork in. And then we'll go into international offices. That's the plan. I don't have a date or time or where to start, but a number of people in different countries are ready to help out. What else did you add? Oh, we don't have a membership. It's free. All we want is to people to connect with us and sign up for the e-newsletter, which is free. And then that gives people access to knowing what the heck we're up to, what resources we've developed, like the curriculum evaluation guidelines and and other free items like that, or free resources, the compass. And so we have, I think, approaching 85,000 members, if you want to call them that, getting the e-newsletter with a huge open rate and click-through rate. So yeah,
Awesome.
it's very active.
And what was the first year of the conference?
Yeah, this will be our 10th year. So the first year was the first year.
The first year, okay.
Yes, that's the year Mark Seidenberg's Language at the Speed of Sight came out, and we were sitting on the floor just trying to plan the next thing. And one of our first board members, Dr. Michelle Story, she said we should have a conference because she always helped NASP do that. And we're like, well, if you know how to, you just open the mouth and we're going to walk through there and do it. So we reached out, who should we invite? And this person says, how about Mark Seidenberg? I'm like, okay. So thankfully he had a son in college right in central New York and said, if you make it during the time I go to Parent Weekend, I'll be there. And that's why our conference is in Parent Weekend season.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. There's a reason. Oh, so many weird backstories of just... we have we're hiring, and we have a new unbelievably talented and bright and systems oriented Dr. Marisa Ramirez Stuckey is our new CAO, and she has said to me repeatedly, she's only been with us 7 months, she goes, Maria, people know about the Reading League and they think it's a big deal. I'm like, oh my gosh, really? She's because I'm just always here in the nuts and the bolts. And she goes, you don't see it from the outside. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's great to hear. I know we're busy. I mean, I'm downplaying it, but there is that sense of if I think about it, I might fall backwards and not to be heard from again. So
it's true. But you know what? That also translates into impact, which is really hard to measure, but I think there's a lot of evidence.
Oh, yes.
For what a big difference. All of your initiatives, like when you talk about systems change, and we're focusing on change makers here, literally the Reading League is involved in every aspect of literacy. Even, I know they're even having information meetings with publishers.
Oh,
so
yes.
That is huge. Like those are... And that's an area or an arm that I think people don't really think about.
I know.
You not only have the guidelines, you're saying, hey, let's impact things here too. So awesome stuff.
Last week I ran into someone. I had coffee with someone on Friday, a local gentleman that does a podcast. And we became friends. And so once a month we try to grab coffee together. And someone we both know walked in. And he's like, what are you doing these days, Maria? And I'm like, nothing. And my friend's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, I just want it to be nothing right now because if you start, the guy will never be able to get to work on time because I have to tell him everything, right? There is no elevator, water, cooler speech for this. It's just too much. And you know what? I think it has to do with the fact that the mission is so relatable. You can't run into anyone whose mom wasn't a teacher or whose husband had trouble learning to read at one. Everybody can understand that this is important. Whatever interested party or stakeholder group you talk to, state ed, policymakers, philanthropists, they want this. So,
yeah. And Maria, I appreciate you took us on that journey and you talked about the fact that you didn't know what you know today. I mean, it didn't happen overnight.
No.
And you allowed that evolution. And that's really helpful, I think, for people because they see where someone is maybe on this pathway of the science of reading and they might be intimidated or they might think, oh my gosh, there's so much to learn, right?
I mean, I'm having to learn customer relations management software. I want to not do that. It's hard. It's not interesting to me. I see the value of it. But then once I get going in it, I'll be like, oh, why didn't we do this years ago? And this is fantastic. And this is going to make everything so easy. So yeah, I'm on the same journey all the time. So I get what they're going through.
When students need support, every moment of instruction counts. Ascend Focus by Reading Horizons is an adaptive K-12 intervention that identifies skill gaps and delivers individualized, developmentally aligned support, helping students accelerate progress and reach grade-level performance. Built on the same proven method and trusted foundational software educators have relied on for over 40 years, Ascend Focus makes targeted interventions simple, effective, and measurable. Ascend Focus will be available for district and school implementation beginning with the 2026 school year. Visit readinghorizons.com/ascend to learn more and sign up for updates.
Let's go back to talking about the conference. We talked about the very first one, and now the Reading League Conference is just such a huge annual literacy event. I think I am safe to speak for Donnell and Stacy. It's just one of our favorites. For me, it's just the bright spot of the year. I so look forward to going to the Reading League Conference. So how many people attend now and do you remember how many attended the very first one?
I think 324.
Okay.
From 27 states, though.
Yeah. Wow.
Weird.
Yeah.
In 3 countries. We met some of our Australian friends that first year, and wow.
And now how many attendees?
Now we try to cap it around 2,500.
Wow.
To keep it intimate.
She said that with air quotes, you guys.
There's no intimacy, but no, there is. Like, you still see people. I love it. Just tucked away, chatting, catching up, or I love seeing starstruck new first timers. We usually have over 1,000 first timers at every conference.
Oh, neat.
Oh, wow.
So you'll see them. We make sure they have a blue ribbon on and welcome them and give them like a suggested path to follow. But to watch them see Lindsay Kemeny say, "I'm sorry I'm calling you out," or anyone else on this podcast or listening to it. And they were so nice and talked to me. She signed my book. It's so cute.
But the first conference I attended, and talk about awareness, I didn't even know that conference existed. Your conference existed until, I don't remember the year. I want to say 2018 or 9. It was the Rising Tide Lift All Boats. That year. But you're right, because before then, and I'm going to say this in a way that some people are probably going to take issue with, but I was stuck going to conferences that did not quite align with what I knew. And it was a different vibe. And I think it was not just because I didn't align, right? But when you say intimate, it is. It really is. And that first time I went to the Reading League Conference, I met the organizer of Plain Talk, which I also didn't know existed, by the way. Yeah. And Jan Hasbrook and I got to know each other a little bit then. And it really has. And one of the reasons I think Lindsay said it is our bright spot. It is the place we get to go to see all of our friends. And not only that, we all love to learn. We do that too. So it do such a good job.
You get re-energized to a degree that it's hard elsewhere. I do go to a lot of conferences, but hear very often that people feel a sense of energy of being with your group of people. I mean, and I'm always starstruck myself. I couldn't believe David Scher last year. I'm like, I can't believe I'm talking to you. I've known your name for my whole career. Yeah. Oh, stop it. Or yesterday I got an email from Heidi Mesmer. I remember reading everything she wrote like it was a hamburger. Like, I want to eat. I'm like, now you're emailing me? Hold on a minute. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
I think it's so important for people to feel connected with others, and the conference kind of gives that opportunity. But you said something earlier in our podcast today, Maria, where you said that the idea of feeling isolated was false.
Yes.
And I think that because I know there's so many other teachers out there who might be the only one in their building, or, that are actively trying to apply the science of reading. And so, like, I know for me, finding my people was so just an incredible feeling. And then, yeah, and it's just like what you say, like it takes a league. It takes a league. So finding that league and finding that group. And I think that's one thing I love about the conferences, because yes, we can find each other online, but then actually coming together and just a room packed with like-minded educators is incredible.
Right. And to see that there is not only promise in the science of reading, but proof, because you keep hearing you hear the success stories, and that motivates you. And anyone that's listening feels like a lone wolf in your school, please come to the conference and find a way to get there, because you're going to find other people and start your own network. The league is very much all means all network. One thing I love doing too, get to do, what a joy, is that we get to reach out to people who may not have felt welcome at a science of reading table in the past. And so that's what our summit often works on is, the ELL experts and educators of color. So we always have a wonderful cohort of that every year. And then they ended up just starting an alumni group this year. So they want to stay together and get a little more funding and make the cohort bigger every year. And just, there's room at the table. We'll put more leaves in it. We'll pull out more chairs, because everyone's got a part to play. It's just the most delightful part of my job. Yeah.
And so you were talking about the summit a little bit, right? So you have this conference, this annual conference every year, and then you started a summit, a literacy summit in the spring. So how long have you been doing the summit?
The summit is got to be in its fourth year now. It was 2 years on EL work, and then last year, anyway, 4 or 5.
Okay. And that's a little smaller. That one is a little more intimate, right?
What else? Very different. Everyone learning in one room. You don't go into choose your own adventure mode. Everyone stays together, and there are panels, and we get better at it every year. This year, the summit's a good chunk of 2 days, and on data. So children's data, individual student data, rather, classroom data, district data, and there will be workshops and chances to actually learn and go and back and impact. And right away, people are bringing teams of teachers to that one. So that is great. That's exciting to see. We're encouraging people to do that.
I can't recommend that summit enough. I went to the one in Las Vegas, and I'll be going to this one. I don't know why I missed the last one, but I am so looking forward to it. And it's everything you've said it is.
That's another thing Marisa said. She said, Maria, you don't get it till you go, and then you get it. So why is this different? Why would I go? But then when you're there, like, oh, I see. Yeah. It's intense.
Yeah. And I love it. It is just, I am. I'm getting
comfortable chairs, so you're going to be there and buckle on your learning hats. It's intense.
Yeah, it's great though. It is really fun. And just for our listeners to know that we will be having 3 upcoming episodes with people who are involved at that summit. And so we'll be talking a lot about assessment, which also brings to mind the journal, because the latest journal was all about assessment. But talk to us about how the journal came to be. And
you guys are like the best they're not getting paid, folks. There's no conflict of interest. This is of their own volition. No, the journal was from the Society of Scientific Studies of Reading. Again, this in particular year in question was when it was in Florida, St. Pete's Beach. And I went down to all I had that year was a poster presentation about teacher knowledge and beliefs. So I thought, well, obviously when teachers' knowledge gets built, their beliefs change and then their practices change. So I didn't think I had anything discovering level or anything. But my colleague and I ended up not being even able to go to the on the beach reception because we got stuck in there 2 hours with a semicircle of not just doctoral students, but their advisors who they made come back in 4 deep, who were saying, what do you mean the teachers don't know about the science of reading? To which all I could say was, what do you mean? What do I mean? Like, I'm missing the question here. Like, where would they know about the science of reading? They had no idea that they didn't know.
Wow.
And then when you looked around at all the other poster sessions and feel a sense of joy, like, oh, look at all these up and coming, they're going to go and teach. No, they're not going to teach teachers. They're in school psych departments. They're going to not be teaching teachers. Oh, so that's when I proposed to everyone at the SSR folks, let's start a journal. ILA has Reading Research Quarterly and Reading Teacher, a more user-friendly version, right? And IDA has Annals of Dyslexia and the more user-friendly Phenomenal Perspectives issue, right? Why doesn't SSR have their SSR journal and a teacher-friendly one? So they said, yes, let's do that. Everyone, we're going to go home and do that. And then it never happened. So that was job number one as soon as we started the Reading League and could get it going. How do you start a journal? I don't know. Open the door. Someone will know and you do it. So that's been doing well. We just finished, we're in our 7th year of publishing that now.
Wow.
And we are so honored. Please, everyone clap for me that our editor-in-chief is Dr. Jess Tost in Texas, and she wants this journal to grow like gangbusters, and so she's got all kinds of ideas, and we're this 10th year anniversary, we're going to be sprucing up the journal with everything from different formatting and cover to more thematic content, tying that content to the summit, say, like making it very cohesive. Marissa's going to be developing with our professional learning team some learning guides. So they, how can we increase its utility and value to the reader?
Nice.
And that's what we're working at.
Maria, I think that's when I first met you because
that's what I was going to say there.
You had asked me to contribute an article. That was like your second issue, I remember.
Yep. It was a real early one. And you sent pictures in of working with your kids, and I got it right over there.
Yeah.
So.
I remember you called me and to ask me, and I was so nervous. It was like probably one of the first things I really wrote besides, my blog back in the day. So,
oh, yeah. Well, a lot of people loved that. Thank you for doing it.
Okay, so we kind of talked about this because we talked about the journal, but maybe there's some other things you want to share. So beyond conferences, what are some other ways that educators can kind of engage with the Reading League?
Yes, they should join their state chapter, because I'm remiss if I don't say that the Reading League would be nothing compared to what it is now if it weren't for this chapters.
Yeah.
And when Pam Kastner asked me that, and I thought it was crazy, now look.
Yeah.
And we worried about how do we guarantee quality control. Okay. Right now there's about 500 brilliant, I don't know, I need more words, chapter leaders running these chapters. So please reach out to your state, of course, connect with us so that you can get understandings of everything we're doing on a monthly basis, and then join your chapter and pitch in. I mean, I love seeing chapters co-host live events across, sometimes they join states like Michigan and the state, and sometimes they just come across borders to help someone else run theirs. Do you need some volunteers? Or, oh my gosh, we just had that big, huge national book study on the MTSS. And so unbelievable amount of engagement. And you can go on our website under the chapters tab or events, and at any given time, see in a month what events are available. You'll see at least 5 or 6 or sometimes more, up to 10 or more events that is our Reading League chapter or national offerings for free. So.
Yeah. They're all like, there's so many for free or just very low cost, like each state chapter, it might be like $5 for like a year membership or something, and I love it because I think most of us and most of our listeners are all about learning, right? We're like lifetime learners. And so it's amazing. We're
starting a podcast. That's going to be a surprise. We have another big announcement in April. huge announcement. Very excited about that.
Oh,
I'm
cool.
dying to give it up because I hate keeping secrets. But
Oh, give us a hint.
no, I can't.
Come on, Maria. Come on.
Oh, you tempt us. It's not too far away. I'm not
We'll
saying
edit it out.
what's that.
We'll edit it out.
I can't. I have not told anyone. It's just
Oh, good for you.
I don't trust myself.
Okay,
Okay,
exciting. So
fine.
we have that to look forward to for April.
Yes, definitely, for sure. It's
All
going to be
right.
exciting. Yep.
Okay, is there a certain project that really stands out that you're most proud of?
Oh, yes. It's like I said already, making the table bigger
Yeah.
for the
Okay.
science of reading. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's not too far away from when I remember being asked when we were just a couple years old to go out to speak in Cedar Rapids or Hot Springs. I was just going to, education's always been very female, very white, and it's,
Huh?
and I have always been interested in finding an intersection too, because if all means all, and if we don't welcome in the voices of the people who are responsible for all children, we're not going to make that goal happen. So the intersection of the science of reading and equity is very interesting to me. So it's exciting to see like the NAACP come out with a statement about the science of reading.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So
Absolutely.
that's what I'm most proud of. We have a team, a staff that's committed to it, both here locally in Syracuse, and then we have about a third of our staff are across the country. So
Wonderful. And reading buddies. We didn't talk about reading buddies. I mean, a TV show? Like, what are you not going to do?
of course, because well, when we got the funding to go national, we had no time to waste, and there were there were deadlines, and have to quit your job, and like big things were important, and so I knew we needed about X number of square feet, and I remember a sign on a building in Syracuse, and I wanted to be in the city, and went in. There were no windows, there was no electricity. It was like it wasn't like it was an old factory from the 1800s. It was for steel plows, and so this rugged thing turned into our home. And it happens to be right next door to our PBS station, WCNY, of course. Right?
Oh. Mm-hmm.
And we picked that too because we wanted to find a home for our live event, so we didn't have to pack up a truck and the trailers and bring the centerpieces and the things, and it would just be easier to have everyone come to one central place with free parking. Anyway, I digress. So Mitch Gelman, our CEO of our PBS, came. Very first time he walks into our space and says, "You guys are going to have a television show." I'm like, well, he just saying that because he wants to work with, of course. Yeah. Again, he puts his voice out there, and here we go. COVID hits. Mm-hmm. And he calls again. He said, "So can you help us do a live show every day? Maybe you can get some people with masks and sit 6 feet apart and teach reading to kids who are home out of school. School's closed." So I said, "What do you think?" He goes, "Oh, maybe some read alouds." I'm like, "That's not reading instruction." Let me think about it though. But we did do that first. We just literally, two people, wonderful people, went and sat and gave the Syracuse City School District. They had CKLE, I think, at the time in the the lessons of the day. Mm-hmm. This is when COVID just happened. No one knew what to even do.
Right.
But then in the paper, there was an article about 2 Broadway actors who had been displaced because Broadway's closed. So they're back here in Syracuse living at home, doing some puppet shows for kids at Ronald McDonald House and entertaining toddlers while mom and dad are trying to work from home. And so I said, my God, these are brilliant. They're funny. They're like a combination of Sherry Lewis and Mr. Rogers, like kind of that wholesome but shticky and like slapstick stuff. So I said, we wondered, like, could they make the science of reading really funny and make kids not even know they're getting it? So I got money for that in about a minute. It took me, we came up with a budget aimed high, and everyone wanted to fund that in Syracuse because it was like a trifecta of COVID and lost learning, how romantic, and off we went. And the first one was pretty simple. The first season, we did 20 episodes, which is unheard of, to have a set built. And it was an honor for me to write the curriculum for it. And because Dr. Jean Chall used to advise Sesame Street. So I'm like, here we are doing this later. Yeah. And so oh my God, I have like Mr. Rogers stuff all over here. I just, he's my sweetheart. Yeah.
And if our listeners haven't seen any of the Reading Buddies episodes, you can find them on YouTube, and they are adorable. If you have young students young children, Donnell, when your grandchild's just a little bit older,
already aware, yes,
you've got to have them watch them. They're so cute. Yeah.
Yeah. We do phonemic awareness and letter sounds and chaining.
Yep.
Season 3, we have the gnomes doing the tier 2 vocabulary. So
and you have Val Teams season 3. So like my class earned like a little party thing, and we watched the AY.
Give me your address. I'll mail you things for your kids. We have stickers, markers, and swag like that. We'll send you some reading buddies. I think we even have the little candy gummies. So we can maybe send you some of those.
Oh, that'd be so fun. I mean, and they're like mesmerized when they watch it's well done.
Oh, we got into child labor laws, and then we got real children on the show.
Gosh, all these things you didn't think you'd have to know about.
And now we have to pay for the set to be stored, and we don't know what to do with the set because we don't need it anymore.
Oh, wow.
So, but it's on YouTube Kids, which was hard to get on, and that's got millions. I think we're approaching 10 million views now. So
that's great.
And many states are using it in their daily. I'm going to be talking to some Wisconsin PBS folks next week. We're doing a presentation with librarians, and
great.
So the show's still got some big interest.
Yeah. Okay, so Maria, I guess you maybe you can't answer this all the way, but because my last question, what's next for the Reading League? And we know it's a secret. It's a secret, apparently. Is there anything else you could share, or what's next for you? Anything to share?
What's next for me and the Reading League is this whole next decade of getting what I would love to see, and I think everyone would agree, is a tipping point where structured literacy practices and practices aligned with the science of reading are the norm in every classroom in every district. Do you think we can do that in 10 years? I think so.
Let's do it.
It's ambitious. Sometimes when I go out there in the world, I'm like, we got a ways to go still. But I think we're going to work very hard to keep the knowledge going out there, full blast. And also our professional learning is taking a giant leap. So a lot of people say, I don't even know you work with school districts. Oh, yes. So keep your eye out for a lot of that information. And we have to, administrators need some boosting. Mm-hmm. And there's still so much work to do. But I keep saying this because I know when I say something, you put it out there and it happens. I want Terrell to be a nonprofit that actually gets to close its doors because its work is done.
Wow.
So
that's the goal.
Dream. Mm-hmm.
And, I believe that can happen in 10 years because you are focusing on systems as well. I mean, you have every aspect. And just because some of our listeners are college professors, I know that you even help inform syllabi and programs on the university level too. So
that's wild, right? Because
it's really cool.
I'm giving a keynote at the university I left in next month.
Wow.
For the whole campus. They didn't like when I left what I had to say, and now I'm being invited back.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
That's what we need to do because we can't create this division, right? It's all about coming
Whoa,
together, move the work forward. So
That's
that's
right.
so
Thanks,
neat. What
ladies.
a
That's
full
right.
circle moment.
Yeah, it is. Thank you for saying that. It's true. See, I try not to think about it. Ooh, yeah. So
Awesome. Well, this conversation has been wonderful. Maria, we're so honored that you joined us, and we're so grateful for the change you're making because we're doing
Thank
a
you.
series of episodes on change and
Thank you.
wow, what an impact you have had and the Reading League.
All of you have. So all of us. I don't like the word you when we talk about the Reading League. It's we, us, and ours.
Yeah,
That's it.
I love
We're,
that.
we're all in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, ladies.
And thank you to our listeners for joining us, and we'll hope you'll tune in next time for another episode of Literacy Talks.
Thanks for joining us today. Literacy Talks comes to you from Reading Horizons, where literacy momentum begins. Visit readinghorizons.com/literacy talks to access episodes and resources to support your journey in the science of reading.